Welcome, everyone, to the Aging and Spirituality podcast. As you can see behind me, I'm in a new location. I'm actually in the library, which is kind of exciting. That's one of my favorite places to be. There's kind of a hallowed halls kind of thing about a library. When you walk through, it's silent and everybody's studying and researching, and it's kind of a nice vibe. So, yep, that's where we are today. And welcome. My name's Kathy Taylor.
And I'm Chris Jensen.
And we're so happy to be back with you here. Today we're going to be talking about something that has to do with something that a lot of women over the age of 60 struggle with, and that is being lonely, being on their own as things change, as we get older, circumstances change, divorces happen, kids leave the nest, and we find ourselves on our own in a whole world that we never really anticipated, and nobody really tells you about it before you get there. It just kind of happens, and you wake up one day going, wow, now what am I going to be doing with the rest of my life? So I want to talk about really how yoga helps boomers stay in a spiritual flow. This is the answer to really any situation you can get yourself in where you feel like you are separate. And that means whenever somebody uses that word, I don't know about you, Chris, but when I hear that word, my ears always go up, I feel separate. I feel not connected, all of that stuff. That means, it doesn't mean from somebody outside. It means from inside yourself. Where you can't have that spiritual divine flow unless you are open and receiving it, giving it awareness, paying attention to it, nurturing it, letting it grow inside of you and letting it express through you. That's a process, and you learn how to do it. And getting to this third part of our life is really one of the most exciting opportunities, is being able to do exactly this. What does it look like to live in a spiritual flow on a regular basis? And both of us can tell you, it's amazing. It is worth the effort, right?
So many people think of this as not as good, but it's actually can be the best time of our lives.
Absolutely the best time. We can definitely say that's for sure, because you have the right attitude. You have the ability to focus when you want to. You have the ability to put your awareness on what you want to put it on. You're not thrown around by all the stuff that's going on in the world. You're in control, and you can lead a very creative, spontaneous, productive, and fulfilling life. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just going to look at my notes here, make sure I'm covering some of the intro stuff that I wanted to say. One of the things that I didn't really flesh out is the idea that, we wake up, sometimes it's after 50, sometimes it has a lot to do with when you hit menopause. That's a very big change in our lives, again, that nobody ever really talks to us about, but it brings on all kinds of different circumstances in your life. And, and certainly after 60, when, kids aren't home, and maybe you're, in the home with your husband your partner for the first time, or maybe you're on your own, like me. I've been divorced forever. I've been single and living alone for forever, and it's amazing life. There's no bad about being in that situation. I hope you know that. But it is definitely a time when you realize that if you haven't already paid attention to self-care, that's the best term I can use. If you haven't, spent that time thinking about what is it that I want from my life, and oftentimes we don't, as mothers, taking care of kids, and then our parents age and we're taking care of them, and we're taking care of our partners and doing all of that, and we are oftentimes the last on our list, and that's a real shame. But again, like Chris said, this is the time when you can really pay attention to, who am I, what do I want, how am I going to live the next 30 years, and you can make it amazing. You can make it really, really one of the most creative times in your life.
Sometimes people who've worked all their lives, they get to a point where they can retire, and they say, oh, what am I going to do with myself?
They freak out.
There's so much out there for us.
No kidding. And often, just based on what you just said, sometimes people won't retire because they don't know what to do with themselves. They're terrified because they know deep in their gut that they don't know the answer to this stuff.
Yeah.
So this is an important place to, pay attention. a lot of studies have really shown, I was looking at some of the stuff actually Chris sent me from the National Institute of Health, I think it
Mhm.
is,
Yes.
that, when we get to this age, we also recognize that we want friends and community more. And that's oftentimes because, as a mom, you have a certain segment of friends, maybe that hang around and you do kids and that kind of thing. But then as you get, past 60, you don't have that. You
Yeah.
don't have, unless you're involved in some kind of community activities, something like maybe a sport or something, you don't have that naturally, and you have to make the effort to reach out and find new friends. And that's often very intimidating for people. So you want to talk a little bit about how to get that done. Let's see. Okay, so let's focus a little bit on, we're going to talk about the yoga practices and principles that we can use to apply to 3 different things that particularly happen after 60. So the number one that I put on here is focus on self-care and find a sense of purpose. I think that scares, that term, find a sense of purpose. We've talked about it a number of times on this podcast. It scares people because they don't have a clue how to get there. And there's, there's probably a lot of books on this, but it's such an intuitive process. It's such a, what would be the right word, skill to find it, like you kind of need a guide when it comes to that stuff. What would
You need some help. You need
need some help.
a process. Yeah.
Because it's such an inner process, you need somebody who understands, who's done that journey, who's gone down that inner place, and what it looks like. How do I read the road signs inside here? That kind of thing is very helpful. Let's see. So when you think about a sense of purpose, some of the interesting questions to ask yourself would be like, do you have goals that you want to accomplish? Do you want to travel and hang out with your friends? So getting clear on these kinds of challenges can help you feel not so overwhelmed. Anything is possible, right? So you're going to maybe join a yoga class, maybe start to learn meditation and develop that kind of a practice. The real key to finding that inner self is deep listening from within. And you've got to be able to get still, calm the mind, calm the emotions, be able to listen from inside. That's why we talk so much about meditation. That's what it takes. You can have that experience going into nature, and you might have a huge aha experience sitting under a tree, or getting really deep into silence, and you connect. That's perfect. That's beautiful. That's one way to get there. You just have to be able to repeat it.
Yeah.
And meditation is the way you repeat it. You sit your butt on the seat every day, and you're able to get there. If you can't find the trees and the brooks and the the outdoor nature.
Let's be patient. Give yourself a little time.
Right. Yeah, you do have to learn it for sure. So I thought, this will be an interesting one. Learning to stay in the flow, in the spiritual flow. There's always going to be bumps. There's always going to be places where you feel confused, angry, until you get a significant way down the road. It becomes much easier to understand what's happening. When you first start doing spiritual practices and committing to understanding what's going on with the inner self, you may find that there's places in your body that need to heal as well. You have to pay attention to those and learn how to release them. These are all things that you should be aware of. Your spirit will help you. Your soul will take you where you need to go. You just need to know when to let go, which is most of the time, when to surrender, which is most of the time. That's like, one of the keys. But, how to get yourself into that place, there's a really good exercise for that. And I'm just going to have Chris take a second to teach us what is called the ask and receive practice. This is a good way to focus in on what's going on in your inner self at any given time. And then you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, this transmitter and receive practice is so valuable. It's so simple. We can all do it. But one of the things that I want to say is, a lot of times we don't ask, but many times we do ask. But the problem is we don't open ourselves to receiving. And so that's what this is all about. It's about clearly asking and then open yourself to receiving.
Right.
So Kathy, for example, what is your ask? Give me an example.
Oh, thank you. That's good. Let's see, what would be my ask for today? Really, um, being 100% inside of myself, expressing God's will. Like, I just don't want to
Yeah.
struggle with all my nonsense, my brain, just God's will. That's all I want to, just bounce off of that every time.
Okay, that's great. So here's what we do. We put our awareness here, this point between the eyebrows, just above the eyes. We call it the third eye. And so you put your ask there. So, and as an example, Kathy's ask is, I'd like to be 100% centered in God all day.
Yeah.
Please, I would like you to come through all day.
Mhm.
And you clearly put that out. So we'll do that for a couple minutes. Then we'll switch
Chris
to,
has got a little cold in case you haven't noticed.
yes.
Take a drink of water or something there.
Going to. So this practice, we're going to put our ask right here. We're going to put the ask out to the universe, to the Lord of your heart. So as an example, the ask that Kathy had was, I want to be centered in you, God, 24/7, all the time. I want that to come through. So she's going to clearly ask that for a couple minutes. Then after we do that, you put your ask out there. I'm going to say, now switch to the heart center. So that place along your spine, right behind your heart, if your shoulder blades were to touch, that's the spot. Then all you do is put your awareness there and relax and open yourself to receiving. That's the part people often have more trouble with. So for a couple minutes, we'll clearly ask. And then for a couple minutes, we're just going to open ourselves to receiving. We're not doing anything other than receiving. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's begin. So putting our awareness in the third eye, let's ask, each asking our own, whatever it is we want. Now we'll switch to the heart center along the spine behind the heart, or you can sense it right in the front and just relax and open yourself to receiving. Don't try to say what you want to receive. Just try to relax and open yourself to receiving. Okay, you can bring your attention back. So we only did a couple minutes asking, a couple minutes receiving. When you're doing this on your own, you could spend 5 minutes asking, 5 minutes receiving. You choose the amount of time, but make a clear ask and then just really open to receiving. That's the ticket.
That's the key. I'm doing that all the time, and I feel like, where I get stuck is if my mind wants to try to play, wants to try to answer it and think about it and talk about it. And just as long as I put my attention on the flow, the awareness of the energy moving naturally,
Yeah.
instinctively, then that's really all you need, is just to pay attention to that.
Do that practice with asking for your purpose in life.
Right. Yeah, that's one step at a time. Purpose, one step at a time, because it definitely changes. So yeah, and just a couple words about, getting your purpose again. It oftentimes, when you can think about what is unique about yourself, that's often a pointer to what, you know, your purpose is all about. The unique qualities that you are and that you bring to the world is oftentimes an indicator of who you are and what you're doing here. What lights you up, what is fun for you. Those are all things that are indicators of what your purpose is. You know, ask your friends what is unique about you. Like, if I wasn't in the room, what would you miss? What's gone, you know, when you're not around? That's an interesting question that can really center you in on what your true essence is and give you some kind of clarity. So, okay, so thank you for that exercise. I love that. I love when you do the exercises. So the second point that I wanted to make was about creating connection with friends and communities. And again, we were talking about how, you know, you get to this age and oftentimes because of death and divorce, you might find yourself alone, or you might just find yourself, you know, maybe without children and maybe wanting to connect more with people at this stage in your life that are at completely different stages than when you were raising kids or whatever it is. And it's so important to do because, you know, that study that we were talking about from the National Institute on Aging from 2019 said that a lot of people feel socially isolated and alone, which we're going to identify what those particular things mean. But that has an effect on your health. It can raise your blood pressure. It can have causes like obesity and heart disease. So it's not just, you know, in your head. It's a fear that can lead to an actual physical ailment, you know, so let's be clear about that. I mean, being socially isolated means that for most people, it just means they live alone or they're alone a lot of the time. And I'm one of those people, and I don't suffer because I'm socially isolated. I don't feel alone. And here's the distinction, you know, you like being the idea of loneliness is kind of a subjective thing. It's a just distressed kind of feeling of being separate. Again, there's that word, you know, separate.
Not being connected.
Right. And if you're connected to spirit, you're not separate from anything. So no matter what's going on in your world, you feel connected to God. And so that you don't have all those struggles. You really don't. I mean, yeah, I feel like sometimes I'm going on like over and over about this particular point, but that is the truth. I don't feel alone because I am connected to spirit. Whatever going on in my world, if I need to talk to somebody, I can go in the library and talk.
Right. That's the primary connection.
Yeah, you can just look for connections all over the place, including community in your own place. And I have some ideas about how to do that. I'll give you at the end of this particular part. Good relationships are important. You want to be healthy and happy. You want to be able to connect with people. I mean, just being able to talk to somebody is often all it takes in a day to take you from depressed to back being centered again, you know? It's really important to have loved ones around you, have friends, people that understand you, people that will take the time to listen to you, and just be able to connect to them whenever you know, have a coffee, go get a croissant, you know, be together for a little bit. I saw my son the other day and it was like, oh, this is like nirvana, you know, like I get to hug him, you know, like, I mean, it just doesn't get any better, you know, when you have people that you really love. That's one of the biggest blessings on the planet. So here's the thing too. Sometimes, you know, you run up against people who are edgy. That's a good word for it. And I've had that going on a little bit in my life right now. And here's what I did to deal with it, because I never want to feel like you know, I'm a person that's never left a bad relationship in my past. I have always healed and moved on, you know, moved on from many relationships, but never in an angry way or in a way that, you know, I've left something undone. And so when people are struggling around me or have an issue with me or are, you know, not feeling particularly great about me, I will just close my eyes. And this is coming from the yoga center. I remember Virgie doing this a long time ago. Close your eyes, imagine the person that you want to connect with. Can be any person, can be a person, a group, community. You know, you can do this with the world at large. Feel your heart expand out, you know, 2, 3, 4 inches in front of you. Just that gorgeous feeling of your heart energy coming out and connecting with that person or that group of people. And then just imagine extending your hand to that person in love. Like, I know you're struggling, I know you're mad at me, but I'm not going to spend any time being angry at you. This is not going to rock my world. Like, I don't know what's happening with you, and I'm not going to try to figure it out. I'm just going to send you love. And oftentimes, as Chris and I know, we've done this one many times, when you just let go like that, it will dissolve. That angst between you will just go. So that sounds like a little technique, but listen, if you have friends that you're struggling with, it can be a lifesaver. It can be, the difference between you going around all day going, why is that person mad at me? And why did she say this? And like spending
uncomfortable, right?
Right. Spending the whole day worrying about what somebody else is thinking and feeling. I don't know, and I don't care.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just sending you as much love as I possibly can. So remember that one. That's a powerful one. Okay. And this one I have to add in because it's one we often don't talk about, and it's one that kind of hits us when we turn 60, and we never really put any attention into it before. And that is that when we get to be 60, women need to have a new sense of their bodies. I read this great quote from a woman or it's a doctor actually, Dr. Susan Sands. She's a body image expert, and she wrote a book talking about our body image past 60, saying that we need interoceptive awareness, which is a critical factor for our well-being. And basically what that means is it's an emotion regulation that involves a coherent relationship with the self, specifically effective communication between the body, mind, and feelings. So what she's saying in yoga terms it's really the true definition of yoga. You have to have that balance of body, mind, and spirit. But, it's why it's crucial for us is that, if we have any unresolved trauma, if we have a body image that is out of whack when we're 60, we're worried, we're getting like turkey neck, we're getting wrinkles in our face, and our body doesn't look like what it used to.
Yeah.
Well, don't ignore it. You just accept it. I know that sounds like maybe it's a really big thing to do, but little by little, every day, I'm getting a little bit older. I earned that wrinkle. I earned these wrinkles. I earned this, like maybe I want to do something about it. Maybe I don't. That's not the point. The point is accepting where you are at this particular part in your life. You really need to create a safe harbor so you're not walking around feeling bad about how you look, bad about your body. You want to be
content with where you are and who you are.
Exactly. Being comfortable in your body is so important. I mean, look at yourself every day in the mirror. I mean, if it freaks you out to be naked, fine. Just look at yourself and just love yourself anyway, Look in the mirror and look in your own eyes and say, I love you. It goes a long, long, long way. And of course, like when you're doing a routine of self-care, healthy diet, good sleep, enjoyable fitness, it makes it easier to stay in that spot physically. I think that's why, a lot of us do start routines of physical self-care as we get older, because it feels so good. It feels so good to love your body, to stretch it, to take care of it, to say, you know what, I'm so freaking grateful for you being here for 60 years.
Thank you for keeping me going.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for dragging my butt around this planet for 60 years. Because we take it so for granted. Think about your feet. How much do your feet take care of you every day? Your legs, your whole body takes care of you, takes you where you want to go every darn day. Spend your time being really, really grateful for that. So, Chris, I thought an interesting way to end this one might be to talk. Is there a pranayama that we can do that will promote gratitude?
I think there is. There's one.
Maybe just an exercise that
Yeah, centered in the heart, where we inhale. And again, the heart center along the spine behind the heart or in the front. When we exhale, we just let a white light go out a little ways, maybe an inch, bring it back in. When we inhale, we exhale, we let it go out an inch and a half. And what it does, it just kind of opens the heart in a nice way. And that helps to open you to gratitude and compassion as well.
Oh, I'm doing that as you're speaking, and it has kind of a sweet feeling of
Very sweet.
it there. Yeah,
It's very sweet.
very nice.
And you just keep doing that until you go out 4 or 5 inches. You do a little bit at a time.
I love that.
You don't have to go really far, but it just brings a sweetness to the heart. It's a very nice thing to do.
Great. So listeners, do that before you drag your gratitude journal out in the morning and start writing the things that you're so grateful for.
Mm.
Get your breath and your body and your mind and emotions all balanced in that kind of harmony that takes you right into that peaceful place of gratitude. All right, my friends, there are some fun things that I have in terms of links that I'll put them on the post so you can see them if you want to get into them. You know, like people know of a thing called Red Hat Society. That's ladies that get together in their community and do exactly what we're talking about. You know, help each other, support each other, get together, have lunches, do that kind of thing. That's there for you. That kind of stuff. Just Google it, you'll find them. Journeywoman.com is another place where you can go and travel with other. If you love to travel and you don't have a travel companion and you're afraid to go on your own, call them up. You can hang with a bunch of other women that love to do exactly the same thing. So lots of resources out there that you can find that can, you know, help you realize your goals and, you know, not be sitting around worrying about what you're going to do in your 60s and your 70s and your 80s.
Yeah.
I hope that's helpful for you. You know, we love talking to you. We hope, you know, what we bring to you is going to be useful for you. And of course, if there's any questions that you have, let us know. The light kind of changed so you can see me again. The sun's starting to go down. It's starting to be like mid-afternoon. So sorry about the lights in the library. All right. We'll see you next week. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.